Hello, and welcome to the next video in orientation. So now that you have go ahead and written out your goals, what it is that you want to accomplish, why is it that you want to accomplish it, and really resonated with that, I want to walk you through essentially how this business, how this industry is of course going to help you get there. Right now, before I kind of mentioned the three ways to wealth, as you can kind of see here on the whiteboard, there's many ways underneath that, but I do want to mention this to you. And this is, if you haven't thought about this, I want to make sure it's very important that you do. We are currently living through the greatest generational transfer of knowledge, automation, tech, and money in the history of the world. Think about how we have solar sales right now, right, which is probably the only industry that even comes close to the same level of commission and income that you can receive without a degree. And that, with the big beautiful bill just passed, by the end of this year will be over. Think about every other sales job that's out there that is high ticket sales, right? Or any sort of hourly or salary job that doesn't require to get a college degree, right? And it's not necessary. I mean, hell, even surgeries are now being performed completely 100% done by AI. And so I want to make sure that I preface this something here, is that before I explain this ways to wealth here, is that we are going through a period of time in the next 5 years that the vast majority of jobs will be done completely by AI, whether that's robotics, whether that's intelligence, or of course customer service, anything else. And so if you think for a second that what your parents did and they went to college and they got a pension or whatever, if you think that that world exists anymore, it's not, it's gone. And so before I explain how we can get to wealth, which is exciting, I also want to make sure that I preface here that this is a very real time, that if you don't take this seriously, that the haves and the have-nots will continue to widen. And the only reason why I'm personally not panicking is because legislation, right, the government itself, takes a while to actually catch up to technology, right? We've seen that time and again. And that means that at best, we have a 5-year window in which our license protects us as brokers to be able to actually market and sell these products without necessarily having an AI do it for us. But without a license, would already have lost our jobs. I already have an AI right now that sounds better than half my team, and it's constantly being trained and getting better. And so I think I want to just impair something on you, that as we go through these trainings and you start to think about your schedule, you start to think about the inputs and what's going to take and what it's going to require in an investment, whether it's time, energy, money, relationships, whatever it is. I want you to also think about the downside of you not doing this, right? And that is that there is, like, Medicare and Medicaid are planned to expire by the time that we get there in retirement, right? Like, we won't have that available. AI will have taken in 10 years, AI will have taken every single job, right? And so we have this small window of time to make the most amount of money that anyone has ever made in the history of the world with this level of technology. We have a product that we sell that not only is recurring, meaning people will buy it over and over again, not only is it a need that people have been buying since the world started, right, and the country began, but we also have a license that protects us. So we have a foundational set on carriers that have been here. I mean, Mutual of Omaha is 130 years old, older than the stock market, right? So our product, our service isn't going anywhere anytime soon, right? Our license isn't going anywhere, and it protects us and insulates us, right? And then on top of it too, we have this incredible technology revolution but we're basically in the Wild West, right? This is like the beginning of the internet. And we have this period of time where we can capitalize on this. But if you decide to take it easy and slack and chill and do all the things that you've been doing up until this point, I promise you, give yourself 5 years and you will be out of a job. Not because, of course, myself, but because at the end of the day, the AI will do everything that you can do and better. So while you're in the Wild West, the only thing that you should be focusing on is accumulating so much wealth that it doesn't matter. That you can invest the money, put it into an account, withdraw interest from it, or put it into a real estate, host the servers that have the AI in it, whatever it takes for you to be the have and not be the have-nots. Okay? With that being said, let's look at the positives and the upside of this, right? So there's ways to wealth here, of course. Now, as you can see, there's 3 ways to wealth, and I'm going to go over the main 3 ways, but I do want to make sure that I preface here that you can do all of them, right? There isn't necessarily like you have to do this, you have to do that. But what I want to make sure that you know by the end of this video is essentially which one aligns with your goals the best. And then afterwards, I want you to, when you book that call with me, make sure you take notes on this and you let me know which one is going to actually align with you, your values, your goals, and what you want to do. Because essentially, I've done all this. And so if I can show you how to get there, I will, which I will, right? So just make sure that, as opposed to, I want to do it this way because this is the way that other people are doing it, or I want to do it this way because that's the way Zach said do it. I want you to actually figure out how to align this with your goals. And then from there, I will coach you on how to get there, okay? So first things first is life insurance, right? That is the number one way that most people will go ahead and get wealthy. It is incredibly fast capital. You can get paid quickly in large lump sums of money, which we'll talk about here in a second. Health insurance, a little bit more residual, right? So a little bit more passive, not as much upfront, but Also, it is, of course, more long-standing, more guaranteed, and of course, it pays passively, right? And it builds equity. Last one is annuities. And annuities is high commission, no residuals, but incredibly low chargebacks and cancellations of 0.01%. And so, of course, good for solo producers. So we're going to go into all these and every single one of them. So first is life insurance, okay? So with life insurance, you can go, again, 2 routes, or you can do a combination of the two. And one would be a producer and the other one would be a builder, right? Now, as far as producers go, me personally, I have witnessed 18, 19, 20-year-olds making over $100,000 in net deposits every single month using just production alone, okay? And so if you tell me, hey, Zach, my goal is to make $100,000 a month as fast as humanly possible, then that is being a producer in life insurance, very simply, right? You can take the money that you get paid out in 24 to 48 hours, and then immediately reinvest that money back into your systems and go and scale up and scale up. And a couple examples of this is Frankie Perillo, who's on our team here, my personal upline. I watched him at 24 years old put $220,000 in his bank account in the last 3 months just on production alone, right? Now, of course, he was investing about $10,000 a month, but essentially, I mean, after even that, and that's with chargebacks, right? Because deposits are after chargebacks included. Incredible return on investment, right? You also have Omari, who was on our team earlier. And Omari, 19 years old, had 0 sales experience whatsoever. Actually, that's not true. He was at AIL for 3 months. But I mean, what is that, right? Before that, he's working at Raising Cane's, 19-year-old in a basement in Kansas on a laptop in his parents' house. And I watched him put $160,000 in 1 month into his bank account. Okay. Now, again, he, of course, spent money on leads, right? They all do at that level, at that scale. There's literally no way otherwise. But I think he spent $12,000 that month on leads to deposit $160,000. And again, that's after chargebacks. Okay. So if you're telling me, hey, Zach, I want to make that money as fast as humanly possible, it's being a producer. Okay. Of course, you're going to spend money on leads. Of course, you're going to have to stay locked in. And of course, you're going to have to make sure that at the end of the day, you are damn good on the phone. So make sure you're booking a lot of trainings and coachings so you can sharpen that axe to get good. Now, the cons of this, though, are that if you don't produce, right, then you don't make money, right? No production, no money, right? That's the problem with it. Now, I will say most of the advances that we get, from these carriers are going to be from months 1 till, of course, months 9. So months 10, 11, and 12 are actually going to be paid out as earned. So me personally, I would say on average anywhere from low end 250 to high end maybe 600 is what I'm going to get paid daily now from the production that I did when I first started in this business, right? That 10 months ago. So yes, you do get residuals, and yes, this job gets way easier once you get into that months 10, 11, 12. But essentially, just keep that in mind that it's not true residuals. They're just paying you that as earned, right? Another way that you can build residuals is if you go over the advanced cap. So I'm going to kind of nerd out for a quick second. The carriers will actually advance cap you anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500. Usually it's about 3,500. And essentially the 3,500 or the 2,500 cap is designed to make sure that if I sell a $9,000 policy, that I don't get a $9,000 chargeback if they miss their first premium and they just go ghost, right? Because that would screw you out of the business. So essentially what they do is they cap it at 2,500 to 3,500 depending on the carrier. And then if the commission was supposed to be 8,000, then the remainder balance of that commission is now paid out to you on months 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. So essentially I just watched like Enoch yesterday put in a $9,600 policy, right? He's going to get the $3,500 cap paid today. And then after, this month, right, the very next month, he's then going to get about I think it was like $506 every single month, right, for the next 11 months essentially, right? Because that carrier is a 12-month advance. So what do I mean by that is like, yes, you do build residuals, but just remember that production is important if you want to keep it up. Because if you're going to do 100K in a month, you can expect at least 10K in chargebacks, right? Even with the best systems in the world, you're going to drop balls. It's impossible to keep all that up time and time again. And you're going to probably close a person here or there who maybe just can't afford it, but they wanted to afford it and then they can't, right? So at the end of the day, when it comes to the cons of production, you really just want to make sure that if you're going to produce at that high of a level, that's okay. You just want to make sure that you can produce at that high of a level again and again and again. Now, I'm not saying, okay, so if I can't do 50K or 80K, if I can't do that every single month, then I shouldn't even do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying do it, but then immediately by the second month, maybe do 60K. But again, what you're focusing on is trying to make sure that you can write 80K every single month after. So look where things went wrong, implement systems, implement software, implement scale, whatever you need to do. And of course, you can talk to me, your uplines, but you want to make sure that you can do that time and time again, right? And so that's it essentially, right? For production, you just have to have good systems, right? You have to have good systems for customer service. That's it. Right. And I also think you really should be referral heavy, right? Referrals have a over 70% close rate, and referrals also have a 94% persistency rate at 12 months. So if you want your books to be sticky, then you need to figure out how to turn that client that you got from the lead that you bought into, we talked about earlier, that 1.1. You should be getting at least 1.1 referrals per sale that you get. And that's how you're going to be able to have and manage a sticky book of business on life insurance. Okay. Now the next thing here would be builder, right? Now I can tell you very much so, building is harder than producing. Hands down, it is. It's much harder, right? The thing though is that in my opinion, first off, leaders are called, right, to leadership. So if you think that by building, it's going to be a faster way to wealth, I mean, technically it will be, because you can maintain these 100K months, right? Like producer is about how fast I can get to 100K a month. Building a team is about how many months in a row can I make 100K a month plus, right? And me personally, I would rather have that, right? Which is how many months in a row can I make 100K plus a month? But you want to just keep this in mind that as a builder, that you're going to have chargebacks from your team, right? You're going to have roll-up debt, which we'll explain later. You're going to have, you're going to have people saying that they're going to do something and then just not doing it, and not showing up, or not being good partners, or backstabbing you, or, trying to steal from you, or whatever. Like, it's a hard road to go down. But at the end of the day, a builder, a leader, is called to leadership, right? They are not necessarily always in it for the money. Now, of course, the money is a byproduct, but they're in it to help people. They're in it to lead people, and they're in it to coach people and be a servant to people. And so I personally think that at the end of the day, building a successful life insurance business, you should build leaders. And so I don't personally think that it's a great idea to, if you're going to build a team, to just have a bunch of producers on your team. You really should actually have other leaders. So when you're recruiting and you're hiring and you're training, look for those individuals. And the reason why is that those individuals have ownership mentalities, whereas producers, they just see it as an agent. They just see it as like, oh, okay, well, I'll just step off and step away whenever I don't feel like it, fuck it, right? And that can create a lot of instability in your business. So be careful when it comes to who you're hiring, training, recruiting, all of that. Essentially, you want to bring on partners, not agents, right? That being said, though, again, everybody has their own way to wealth. And so if you got a little psychopath that wants to join the team and just wants to crank dials and buy brand new leads and work them properly, and just do all the things you tell them to do so you can get to 100K a month, by all means, have that. And real talk, it'll probably do a big benefit to your team, because having somebody on the team like that who's going to write at such a high level is going to, of course, inspire the team, to push and do more, right? So basically, essentially, as a builder, you want to get to that 100K a month. You just want to keep it there. It's a long, rocky road, just to let you know, but man, is it rewarding. Man, is it fulfilling, and it gives you more purpose than you could be ever as a producer. Now, again, so the same thing here, pros, is that you can keep this 100K a month a lot easier, right? And like I said earlier, with those residuals, the months 10, 11, 12, every day now I'm getting, $20 here, $30 here, $100 here from people that are on the team when they submitted a deal 10 months ago, right? So now you're talking about some serious residuals that are coming in. And that's why it makes it, of course, part of the reason why it makes it easy to hit that. Also, as a builder, you get additional incentives, right? So as a producer, you get bonuses by the carriers. You get production bonuses from FFL. But on top of it, as a builder, you also get the VP bonus, which essentially is a builder bonus as well. So extra income on top of that. And again, it's just stability. And once you, of course, once you get to the point where you have leaders underneath you that are actually stepping up and taking over when it comes to trainings, when it comes to coaching, when it comes to production, when it comes to culture, once you have a group, usually it's Jay Massey says it's your starting five, right? So once you have like a starting five, like a group of just dogs who are willing to say what you said earlier about being a builder, and that is the buck stops with me. Once you have those 5 men or women or whoever you want on the team that are willing to take that level of ownership like you did, then is when you can start to take your hands off, right? You can maybe start to focus on bigger projects, maybe take a vacation here and there, right? Now, of course, the idea is not to slow down, because remember, in this business, production and builders, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but when it comes to being a builder, you need to earn your overrides day in, day out. You need to actually earn them, right? There's way too many leaders that do nothing to earn their overrides, and then they wonder when their team leaves and they go somewhere else. And it cripples them, because it doesn't just take away the income. Remember, the chargebacks still come. And so without that income to reciprocate that or to dilute that or overcome that, it can actually get you out of this business. So if you're going to be a builder, right, you want to make sure that you are actually feel called and led to leadership. Because if not, you're going to have those moments where you're going to want to quit, right? But that's not what it's about. It's not about the income. It's about the people. But yeah, so it's about stability, and like we said, also balance, right? Because obviously, as a leader, you're going to have next to little balance at all. You have 2 full-time jobs, being a producer, being a leader. But what it does eventually, it buys back, a month or a year or retirement or whatever, and eventually you can essentially have more balance over the course of your entire life, right? So that's life insurance, building and producing. And again, we can kind of go into it another time as far as crossing this all up, because of course you can do all of it, right? Now, same thing here with producing versus building in health, right? Okay. Producing versus building in health. So essentially, these are going to have very similar qualities as far as health insurance goes, right? Of course, you're going to have freedom anytime, anywhere, right? Now, are you going to maybe see those upfront commissions? Probably not. like 100K plus months right out the gate. Probably not, unless you're selling like United Healthcare Golden Rule, and you have an incredible system that just keeps you on the phones day in, day out. Because most carriers on health insurance side don't really pay out advance; they pay out as earned. But what you can do, of course, is that you can build a fat residual, right? So when I left my last company, the captive agency, I left with a 40K monthly. Now, the problem with that is that the commission structure and the way that it was set up is that my year one was 14%, year two was 1.6, year three was 0.06 or 0.6, and then there was nothing after year three. And so, I watched my monthly go from 41K to next to 3K in like a year and a half, right? So, of course, because I was in a captive agency, they were able to dictate those commissions, essentially like communism, where they kind of determined exactly what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and you just kind of had to take it because you couldn't go anywhere else. Now, as a broker, though, remember, these carriers compete for your business. So if you're going to produce, right, then let's talk about that. Production is going to be for the ACA on average around $25 a head, right? And that's for the ACA. So, of course, now, a family of four, you can get to $100 a month, right, or whatever. On top of that, you also have, on average, a 2.5 year persistency, okay? So 2.5 years of persistency is the average ACA policy, which is a pretty big deal, right? Because if you then do the math, so let's say it's $25 per month, right? And I get to 20, 30K a month. Well, that's not just 20, 30K a month for that month. It's for the next month and the next month, and it's always gonna be level. And then for the next 2.5 years, you're gonna get paid that. Now, I had a friend of mine, his name's Sebastian DeFucci, and if you're on the team and you're partnering with him, because we are with Health, you'll kind of see what I mean though. But he built his ACA book in about 18 months. He built it to 40K a month, which is cool. That's, again, insane. I built mine 40K a month after 4 years. So 18 months is incredible. However, what's more important though, is that the value of the book of business, since you own it, is the ability to retire. And so right now he was telling me that if he wanted to sell it, he's had multiple offers. The best offer so far though has been about $1.2 million for that book of business, right? And so the reason why is because it's level for life. And so now we're building equity, right? And so this person wanted to buy it for about $1.2 million. And then what they want to do is they wanted to cross-sell his clients other stuff, life insurance, homeowners, maybe car insurance, whatever. But essentially other agencies, other brokers, and of course other private equity firms will buy your book of business. And quick side note here, they will also buy the book of business for your life insurance as well. The only difference is that with life, since there's not really renewals and residuals the way it is in health, they're more or less buying the machine, right? So they're buying the IP, which is your leadership team. They're buying the brand. They're buying, whatever softwares you guys use. They're buying the lead source, the engine. They're buying the business, right? Whereas in health insurance, you can buy the business, but you can actually also buy the book of business itself, right? The literal income that comes from the renewables inside the health insurance. Now, that's what the ACA. You also, of course, will have Golden Rule, which again pays upfront commissions, but very similar to USHA, right? It's eventually it kind of teeters off, right? It's after like 3 years, it's kind of done. And then last thing would be LifeX. And if you guys don't know, as of right now, LifeX is essentially an employer insurance, right? So it's employer coverage that's sold privately, which is amazing. And it's true MEC qualified, right? So, traditional deductibles, co-pays, preventative care, all of that's included, just like you normally would expect an employer insurance to be. And it pays on average about $110 a policy, right? And so when you have $110 a policy being added up, again, same thing, that 40K a month, you could sell it. But here's the most important thing to remember is that those policies on average have a persistency of 7.5 years. 7.5 years, right? So as you can imagine, if I have that 40K monthly, now instead of getting 1.2 million in theory, right, you would multiply that, since you're multiplying the years that they're on the books, to maybe a $3 million exit. And so what's really important to kind of keep in mind is that with health, you can build equity, right? So you're building residuals. So for passive income, right? Oh, and by the way, passive income, I'm sure for some of you guys that are coming on are thinking to yourself, yeah, right, Zach, like I get customer service out my butt. I personally, of all my clients, have had in the past year and a half, I've had one person reach out to me from LifeX and ask me to add vision to their policy. And so just remember, if you have a little PTSD from where you're at and you're selling dog shit insurance, it is not the same here, right? When you sell traditional insurance, it's much, much easier to manage the book because they know exactly what to expect. It's incredibly traditional, right? The co-pays, the networks, the preventative care, all of it is just exactly what to expect, right? So that being said, you can sell, again, your book of business because you own it, right, as a broker. So that's in health insurance. Last one here. Oh, and then of course, I should have put builder here. Last one would be builder, right, on the health insurance side. Now, I will say as an ACA, like overrides, ACA overrides are really not great. Just be real with you. It's kind of nickels and dimes. It's really not a lot. And so essentially as an upline in health, it really is more or less an add-on. Now, where you can get some good overrides would be like UH1 Golden Rule or the LifeX renewals, right, or LifeX policies. So just as a heads up, in building in health insurance, it's a little bit different. But it's the same concept, right? It's just going to take you longer, but it's the same thing, right? worse. Just because it takes longer doesn't necessarily mean it's worse. Just means that, of course, on the back end, it pays off more, right? Because even as a builder in life insurance, right, if I were to make 100K a month, that's assuming that my team doesn't just walk away or go through a hit, or the lead vendor dries up, or whatever it might be. Like, something might actually happen, in which case this would screw me, right? Whereas in health insurance, I don't want to say screw, that's dramatic, right? But it would hurt, right? Then you have health insurance where even if the team walks away, well, the renewals are still in place and their level. So of course it's just more stable, right? More long-term growth in general, right? More predictability, I should say, right? Whereas, and when I say long-term growth, I do want to just make sure I'm not speaking out my butt here. Some of the people that we admire from these companies that we are leaving and coming to, just remember that none of them are touching this level of income from being a life insurance builder. I just want to make sure I preface that. Jay Mask is 24 years old, and in 4 years, he's now making $500,000 to $600,000 a month. Blake Davis, right, 24 years old as well, right, making 80, 90K a month 3 years in, right? Like, that's not really something that's like doable like anywhere else. I don't know anybody else. Like, most people that I know that are doing that have been in their industry, in their company for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus years, right? Like, and it truly is incredible to think about how fast and how much money you can truly make, right? And if you're smart about it and you're putting your money away, then you should be fine. Right. The next thing here is going to be annuities, and same thing with annuities. Now, overrides are actually good on annuities, so it does actually make sense to be a builder here. It's just that the deals are few and far between, right? It's, you might get one deal a week if you're insane, right? But the average commission on annuities is roughly around $20,000 to $15,000 to $20,000. So if you're doing one a week, like, you're insane, right? But it's just few and far between. It's hard to train. There's a lot of certifications, so there's a lot of red tape to get through into being a builder and producer. But the big pro with annuities is that at the end of the day, being an annuity broker, or just selling annuities, is that they have a 0.1% chargeback rate nationwide, right? And so if you think about that, right, a 0.1% chargeback rate essentially just means that, yes, it's all this upfront commission, there's no renewals or residuals there, but you can essentially use this as a way in which to be a solo producer and also not worry about the chargebacks we talked about in life insurance, right? And I really like it. Obviously, there's more customer service to it. There's more infrastructure to it. Like, you kind of have to know your shit. And again, same thing with being a builder. You kind of have to know your shit on 10, right? Because you're going to have to teach people how to regularly do this. If you get it wrong, like you mess up somebody's annuity, you can actually get in legal trouble. So it really is important that you really know your stuff and become more of an expert. I usually tell people, just take a little bit of time to learn life and health if you don't already. And then when you're ready for annuities, let me know. But essentially, I know multiple people that make over millions of dollars a year just producing on annuities alone. And so if you ever wanted to do that, you can as well. Again, no residuals, right? The money's locked up. I'm not really sure exactly about selling the business. I haven't talked to many people about selling their book. I doubt it, since there is no renewals. I'm sure you could sell the engine, right? Just like any other business. But at the end of the day, when it comes to annuities, that's essentially it. So of course, it's just that 0.0 or 0.1% chargeback rate, which is just ridiculous. It's amazing, right? And so what I would just say is this, is like, if you were to say, okay, Zach, well then, like, what do you suggest, right? Like, what do you suggest that I do? Personally, if I were to do this all over again from scratch, okay, the first thing that I would focus on is being a sicko producer, okay? So doing anything and everything I can possibly do to be as quickly as possible to be a sicko producer in life insurance. Why? Well, first, we just need capital, right? To do all this other stuff here, we're gonna need some sort of capital. And so if I focus on being a producer, one, I will be able to, of course, put the capital in my bank account. Two, I'm going to quickly see where I need to scale, and I have the capital to be able to invest, whether that's a virtual assistant, systems, processes, whatever it is. I can put that in place with the capital as opposed to my time, and help me scale so that I can continue to write those month after month after month. Third, if I post about it, right? So you probably want to do it for a good 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, because one, it gets your production up, gets your bonuses up, gets your comp increased, which is very important. And then after that, when I decide to want to start posting about it, which I think you probably should be posting about it the whole way, you just don't necessarily need to reply to every DM. You don't need to like onboard every person. Frankly, if you ever wanted to, someone reaches out to you and think they're a dog, they're a good fit, just send them my way. After I get them to write 30K in a month, I'll transfer them back over to you if you want to do it that way. But essentially your main focus would be on production. And the reason why, if I could do it differently, I would have done that way. And even though I did, I mean, I wrote 50, 60, 70K months back to back to back, I still felt like I started building a team a little too soon. And so because of that, I was kind of taking whoever came to the team, right? I was just kind of taking the lowest fruit that kind of dropped. And that really cost me a lot. Like, and when I mean a lot, I mean a lot of time, energy, and money trying to drag people upwards versus having dogs join the team where they're already sold on being a dog. I just need to show them tactically what I'm doing, right? It is much, much easier to train somebody on skill than it is to train them on effort. So if you are producing at a very high level, you're going to have dogs that reach out to you as opposed to people that want you to save them, right? And you probably have both, to be honest with you, but you can choose, right? You can pick and choose between those people, which ones are going to actually help you, get to your financial goals and which ones are going to slow you down. right? And so overall, being a producer, I'd say, is by far the most important thing first. Now, as I'm producing the life insurance, then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cross-sell health, right? And the reason why I'm going to cross-sell health is because chargebacks come, right? Is because, shit goes sideways. A lead vendor sucks. A carrier, changes something, whatever it might be. And so, hold on one second. Right. There's a lot of variance sometimes when it comes to producing. And so what I personally think is the best thing to do is you produce at a high level, and then in the background, you start building that health insurance. And the other thing is this too, is that when it comes to these life insurance deals, I mean, if you're closing 3 deals a day, you are essentially making anywhere from 80 to 100K a month, right? So if you kind of think about that, like only 3 deals a day can get you to 80, 100K a month, then the volume that's required, like meaning your calendar that needs to be packed out, it's just not really that required. It's just not needed, right? You don't have to actually jam your calendar out to have that. Now, some people do. Some people build their business that way, they can. But essentially, what we want to focus on is from the clients that we do close to white glove them, take care of them. I also just want to remind you that as I personally have seen on the back end of this, the people that have the highest persistencies of everything actually are going to have cross sales, right? So the people that have over a 90% persistency rate, 12 months, all of them, every single one of them are cross sellers. They sell health too. And the reason why is because these people no longer look at them as their life insurance agent or that guy that sold me life insurance. Now that's my broker. That's the person who handles my life. They handle my health. They take care of my family, right? And so you can build residuals in the back end, right? You can, of course, have a bigger equity book. You can handle chargebacks. You also get less of those chargebacks because you're doing more of that health insurance side. And so essentially it just means that overall it's the best thing to do, right? It's to take your existing clientele that you already know their income, you already know their health, you already know their job, you already know these situations about them. And then it gives you all the time in the world to just do the homework before you chat again on your policy review. And then when you do, you can bring that up and say, hey, look, I did all the homework. You really should be looking at these health insurance options, right? And so overall, selling health insurance in the background is the best way to do it, in my opinion. So this is what I would be focused on for the first 6 to 9 months, okay? At least 6 to 9 months of the business. Then after about my first 9 to 10 months in the business here is when I would start to dabble in annuities. And the reason why is because obviously you have chargebacks. You're gonna have, of course, like your months 10, 11, 12, you're gonna have some people falling off the books, whatever. And so you're going to want to learn about how annuities work because of such that low chargeback rate. And specifically because a lot of the life insurance that we sell is IULs. And IULs in a lot of ways can work very similar to retirement vehicles, just like an annuity would. And so if you're able to essentially kind of learn about annuities, you can actually take like maybe one policy a month that was looking for an IUL and flip them to an annuity. And so now you're just adding an extra $20,000 a month in commissions, not spending any extra money on any extra leads at all, right? Nothing different. You're just recognizing that this is not a good fit for them IUL wise and they should go with an annuity. Right. And so because of that, then of course you're able to actually 20 grand and it's non-chargebackable, or I shouldn't say it's not chargebackable, but it just doesn't charge back, right? Because of that 0.1%. And so, and that's going to help you with your persistency on the back end, because if you do get hit with a bad month, right, for some weird reason, then you still have this other capital that's able to cover those chargebacks essentially. Now, after about my first 9, 10 months, I'm going to learn about annuities, start to kind of get my feet wet. And then I would say by months 10, 11, 12 is where I'm going to dive deep into building, right? Now, along the way, you should be working on your brand, you should be posting, and you should be getting interest ready for when this wave comes, right? But essentially though, what I do want to make sure is, very clear here is that I have a true passion for leadership. And so if you tell me, hey Zach, like these are dogs, they're hitting me up, I promise you, if you bring them to me, I will still train them as though they are my downlines, right? And essentially I'll get them up and ready. Once they hit 30K a month, then I sweep them back underneath you, because then of course at that point, they mostly know exactly what they're doing. And they're not going to take up a lot of your time. So if you're kind of feeling like, okay, well, he's telling me not to recruit, but I got all these people and he's telling me we should recruit, to clear that up, essentially, yes, tell everybody about this opportunity, because it is going to be the best opportunity. We just talked about it. It is the best opportunity in the country by far. What you really just need to focus on though is being able to pick and choose who you want to join the team. And that comes from having such a high level of production, right? All right, cool. So that's it there as far as the 3 ways to wealth. Hope you like this video. Hope it aligns with some of the goals, right? And so just remember, we got mixes of freedom, we got mixes of being challenged, we got mixes of income versus wealth. And so what I want you to do is take this training here, really take some time to think about what it is that you want to do and what it is that you want to get out of your life, and which way, or maybe which mix or which route, whatever it would take, what do you think for you would align best with your goals? Make sure you have those ready. So when we chat on our training call, we'll make sure that we can go over them together. Talk to you soon.